From a world record-breaking win by Toby Amusan to international features by Temilade Okpeni, known better as Thames, Nigerians can at least take soccer in the accomplishments of their countrymen across borders. Speaking of borders, another son of the soil who has broken a record and instilled national pride is Kunle Adeyanju, or Lionheart, as he is aptly called. The biker, who is a Rotarian, departed London on the 19th of April this year, with his destination as Lagos. Studio is none other than this brave, daring man known as Kunle Adeyanju. Kunle, thank you very much for joining us this morning.
Thank you for having me, Lola.
It's good to have you. It is such a pleasure. And I already told you how pleased I am to meet you personally. I'm sure I'm not the only Nigerian. I'm sure I'm probably maybe like the 1000th person who is commending you on your bravery. Such a courageous thing to do and for a very noble cause. So let me add my voice to the rank and file of Nigerians who have already commended you and say thank you for what you did.
Thank you so much.
All right, so let's talk about your story. I've read all there is to read. I've watched videos. I've even seen past interviews that you've granted. But, I hope you're not tired of talking about it.
No, I'm not.
Okay, so let's talk about the journey.
You find it incredible, swimming and you.
Right.
So that's what happened to me. I did a bicycle ride from Lagos to Ghana, bicycle, and I thought that would break me. That was in 2018. It was tough. A week I couldn't. I came back. I did it. I said to myself, "Right, what can I do?"
That was in
2019. Actually, it went into my bucket list. Okay, there's something I call for dieting. Things I want to do. Finally exit this to go to my major. 100 years, 50 years, I don't know. Yeah, God willing, yes. So I call them the before I die thing. I don't want to look back and say I've done this. So, because it's here to be experienced. Why did God all that? Look at Nigeria, the Yoruba, the Igbo, the Hausa, different culture. So why did God create? If God created it anyway. So if I live in a kind of world where I don't see all these things, I don't explore all these things, then, it's like somebody who did something for you, I never appreciated it. So for me, that's my perception about it, my perception. And that's how I try to live my life.
Wow. I mean, you're triggering like a huge case of FOMO. FOMO in urban slang is fear of missing out. It's a slang we use on social media when you see someone living the kind of life that you wish you could live, but you may be hampered by certain circumstances. But nevertheless, now let's talk about your trip, the 41-day trip, the iconic trip, that epic journey. What were some of the highlights? I know you passed through different countries and cities, some of them African countries. What was that like? I mean, what were the highlights of your trip, your journey? What lessons maybe did you take away from the trip?
Okay, let me break the trip into two, right? I want to look at what I did from London to the boundary of Europe. That's Algeciras in Spain. I did a total of 12,000 kilos, right? 3,100 kilos from London to Algeciras. That's the boundary of Spain on the shore of the Mediterranean Sea.
Right.
Then I crossed the Mediterranean into Tangier, so I was in Africa. Then from Tangier in Morocco to Lagos was about 9,000 kilos. But I tell you, the 9,000 kilos in Africa was probably the best 9,000 kilometers of my life. And why did I say that? You see, prior to starting this ride, I did a lot of research. It actually took me a year to plan the ride. It took a lot of planning. And I say, I finished the ride. I succeeded in riding through because my plan worked. Because if the plan had been inadequate or shoddy plan, honestly, I wouldn't be home. I won't come back home.
Right.
Because going through Sahara, if you look at it, let me use Sahara, for example, because that was one of the most challenging environments on Earth. It's not designed for humans to live there. It's like for me going into a jungle. Jungle is not where we live. It is wild animal who lives in the jungle. We live and kill you. If you're on the Sahara, if the wind doesn't try to kill you, the heat tries to kill you, or the sand tries to kill you. So when you sort of don't plan well, or your plan is inadequate, I tell you, one of those factors will get you. And it almost got me. Even despite the fact that I planned well, it almost got me. So the experience for me was far-reaching.
Right.
Okay, but what came to me as a surprise was what I didn't expect.
Which is?
And that was the discovery of the true African story.
The true African story.
African story. I use that phrase because before I started the ride, I did a lot of reading about all these African countries, all the countries actually I was going to pass through. And I tell you, everything I read about Africa, all those countries in Africa were negative. People are dangerous, they are militancy, they are warlords, they are going to kidnap you, they are going to kill you, all these negative things was what I read about Africa. And I realized that all these negative things made me afraid and suspicious of other Africans, those countries. So I went there with so much apprehension. But when I got into those African countries, guess what I discovered? Everything I read was not correct. It was not true because people were friendly to me. People were hospitable. People were nice. People were generous. The African continent is a land of diversity. Everywhere you go, every meter you cover, there's something to learn, there's something to discover. That's what I noticed. And that's not what has been reported in the Western media. So that changed my total perception and narrative about Africa. And then I said, discovery of the true African story. And because what happened is, other people have been telling our story for us. They've been telling the story of what they think Africa should be, not what Africa is. Right. So for us as African, you and I, it's up to us to tell the story of what the true African story is. So for me, when people ask me, what is the most important takeout on this ride? And I said, it is the discovery of the true African story. And I realized that all those things that I've read, all those things published in the Western media, has made you and I Africans suspicious of the African. Now, if I'm suspicious, I'm wary of other Africans, why will I want to go there? Of course, I won't travel there. I'd rather go to Europe. And it's all about economics, if you look at it. You travel to their country, you travel Europe, you travel the US or other country. You spend your money there, you are boosting tourism in those countries. So if they make you love each other in Africa, who will come to their country? How will their tourism grow? How will their economy grow?
So you think they deliberately fearmonger?
Yes, if you ask me, I think it's yes. Because why would somebody twist the story, the narrative of a continent so upside down? If you see when they talk about Africa, the only thing they used to describe as the narrative for Africa is either the safari or the jungle,
right,
or the animal.
The animals.
But the story of the African people is never told. And for me, that is the richest part of the story. Because this was where I discovered the hospitality of the people, the friendliness, the warmth, and they're generous. People that you don't know in Africa, On the right, I'll see market women, who are selling their wares by the roadside, their fruits by the roadside. They'll flag me down. Oh, can I take a picture with you? And when I take pictures with them, when I'm leaving, they'll give me 2 mangoes. Those are the kind of things I experience from people. And these are people they actually said in the papers, oh, they are kidnapped, they're going to kidnap you, they will kill you, they are warlords, they are this, they are that. But that's not what I saw.
Right.
So for me, the discovery of the African people was actually, the most important takeout for me on this ride.
Well, I mean, you are right to say that sometimes the narrative about the African continent can be a tad negative, or maybe more than a tad negative. I've seen those kind of stories as well. But does that mean you didn't encounter any sort of negativity? For example, there are some African countries that you pass through that are going through insecurity. Were you at any point threatened? Did you face that firsthand? And even at the borders, was there any sort of harassment for you? If another Nigerian decides to embark on the trip that you did, would they have the experience that you had? Do you think they would have the same experience you had, the highly positive one?
Okay, let me take the last question. If another African decides to go through the same place I went through, I think they are likely to have a more better experience than I did rather. And why did I say so? Because going through there, I think probably that was the first time they will come across somebody doing something humanitarian and openly, displaying like the Nigerian flag, talking to them about this all through the border. So, it's like the ground has been softened a little bit.
Right.
So another person coming is likely to ride on that goodwill that I created on that ride. So I think anyone going through that kind of route where I went through will most probably have a much better time, much better experience than I did. So now on the issue of insecurity, I didn't come across any. I experienced nothing like that. And I'll give you an example. There's this country, Burkina Faso. You see, when I read about reading about all this country, Burkina Faso was actually has the worst rating in terms of security and everything about the country. So what I did was to knock out Burkina Faso from my route. I didn't want to go there because of what I read. But when I tried to go into Côte d'Ivoire, at first I was denied entry into Côte d'Ivoire. And I didn't want to just wait at the border while the Nigerian government was trying to sort out the issue.
Right.
So I diverted into Burkina Faso. By accident, not by accident. But I tell you what I experienced in Burkina Faso. I rode 250 kilos from the border to the town called Bobo Dioulasso, where I spent the night. And, I actually cut that distance short because of that insecurity too, that I still read, the fear of that challenges with Burkina Faso. But guess what I found out on the road? That 250 kilometer was through some of the most dense jungle, isolated places in Burkina Faso. But what I saw was, I would see innocent, hard-working farmer going to their farm. Who would see me passing by will shout and wave me. I would see market women, like I said the other time, who are selling their fruit by the roadside. They'll flag me down and say, can we take a picture with you? And when I start, we'll take a picture together. We took the picture. When I'm leaving, they will give me 2 mangoes to take. That's what I saw. I didn't see anybody brought out. I didn't even see any gun anyway. So it was a shock that this wasn't what I read about Burkina Faso. But because of what I read, I actually knocked that country off my route. And even when I went there by accident, right, I was there with so much apprehension. So much biased mindset.
Right.
But I was happy because I went there, because the whole bias of that country has been corrected. And guess what? I'm even planning to go there next month again.
Are you sure it may be over-exaggerated? I mean, the stories of insecurity, they may be over-exaggerated, but it probably doesn't mean that, there's no insecurity in that country, but it may be overplayed out.
I agree with you entirely. That's actually what I think is happening. Okay, if you look at the States, for example, look at the US. All the time you hear about some people picking up an AR-15 or some kind of weapons,
right,
and go to massacre people. we've had that. I'm sure maybe in the last 3 years, there must have been like 6 or 7 incidences like that where hundreds of people have been killed. Or did we say because of that made the U.S. insecure? Did we say
Valid
it's
point.
so? But when one thing happened in Africa, a little thing like that, it's blown out of proportion and makes the whole world feel this is a place you never should go to. But look at this kind of killings. The last one, almost like 60 or 70 people were massacred. But what happened? The following day, people were still jumping on the flag going to the state. Because they will tell you, oh, it's an isolated incident. But when it comes to Africa, it's a global Africa incident.
Good point.
Yeah.
Okay, so two things I already know about you now. Obviously, you have a strong case of wanderlust. Even before your trip, you had been to Mount Kilimanjaro
Twice.
And you know, with your trip now, you sound very Pan-African, and that's lovely to hear. Are there any moves by the Nigerian government to maybe get you to amplify tourism, or because you're a very good ambassador, not just for Nigeria, but for Africa. So have there been any moves like that from the Nigerian government? I know you've met with, some government officials, but have there been talks of how you can do this? They can get you to sign on to some sort of appointment or a project?
And there hasn't been that discussion, but, for me, really, I don't, you see, like, I'm just doing this thing. It's my life. I'm just living my life, I didn't think it would take this kind of global dimension.
Mm-hmm.
But, as they say, sometimes when you do some things and nature puts you on a pedestal, what do? You just ride the waves. So I'm just riding the waves as hard as I can. Yeah, but for me, what am I going to do to actually help promote Africa? And like I said, that is telling my story. And that is why on this, I'm writing a book about this. The book is like almost 70, 80% done. It's going to be out in the next 90 days. And there's already a global anticipation for that book.
It sure is.
Yeah. And also, we're going to the next one, which is to make a movie around it, which is going to be on Netflix.
Oh, that's one to watch.
That's another way to tell our story. That's another way to reach out. It would be nice if government comes, but the truth is I'm not waiting for government.
That's interesting. I feel like we should carve those words in marble or something. You're not waiting for government, because I know a lot of people feel like, we sort of assign too much responsibility to government, and some of us don't play our parts as citizens and stuff. But once again, our guest this morning, if you're just tuning in, is Kunle Adeyanju, who is known as Lionheart for his, I would even say, death-defying trip from London to Lagos in 41 days on a motorbike. Each of those facts on its own is stunning. It's, amazing. But the fact that he did everything together, went from London to Lagos on a motorbike in 41 days, that's incredible. Very courageous. Of course, he's received lots of national and even international acclaim for his trip. And he's sitting down with us this morning to talk about, his journey, the motivations behind it. And, I'm definitely learning a thing or two. For example, I don't want to gloss over the fact that you said that your trip took a year-long planning, because people might be inclined to think it's a spur of the moment decision. It looks fun, the way you post about it on social media, the pictures of you with the fans and stuff. Someone will see this and say, oh, okay, I should do it, without knowing that there's a lot of forethought and planning that goes into it, because it's dangerous. That's the thing we mustn't gloss over. As he said, he went through a lot of challenging times, interesting. All right, you can comment on social media. Let us know what you think, or with questions that you have. You can also watch our live stream right now on Facebook at Splash FM 106.7. The hashtag to use is Panorama on Splash. Tweet at our handle. I'm sure, just like I am, you are very proud of him. You have words of admiration. Whatever it is you want to say, just drop it on our social media. Now let's talk about the third thing that I said I feel like I know about you, and that's how polio is a dear cause to your heart. So it's public knowledge that, your close friend died from it, and that was the inspiration behind it. But is that the only inspiration behind you choosing to bring awareness to it? And how well has this trip done in achieving your goal, which is to raise awareness and to get people to donate funds?
Okay, well, thanks for that. The truth is, doing the ride, okay, like for me, okay, let me put it this way. I lost a close friend, which we were in elementary school together, had polio, right? And I remember those days when we do all those things that kids normally do, jumping up and down, riding bicycle, swimming, and all those things. He couldn't do them, not because he didn't want to, but because he was limited by polio. And if you look at the way this works, like human mind, our mind, how we walk rather as human beings, we have our mind and we have the body. The mind envisions what we want to do. And the body, which is the vehicle, carries the mind and us to be able to go and implement and achieve those things we want to do. But when the body is incapacitated, it's limited. It's difficult. The mind is just working like in isolation.
So the mind is willing, but the flesh is weak.
Yes, the flesh is weak. Yes, correct. That's actually a good way to put it. So now what you find out is most people who have polio live a very difficult and challenging life. And it affects their brain, it affects their health, because they see a lot of things they want to do, but they couldn't do them. So it's usually a painful lifestyle for them. And that's what my friend went through. So when we lost him, not because the polio killed him, but limited him and affected, the way he lived his life. And I know it was painful for the family. They really suffered. Because imagine his wife. An adult has to be carried, moved about to do basic things he want to do. And I just said, if there's something I can do to make sure another child somewhere doesn't go through this pain, then I'm going to do it. So when I was going to do the ride, I said, it's going to be selfish if I just hop on my bike and take all the fun alone. Can I use that lifestyle that I want to have, what I want to do, to benefit other people, to give back to the community, to touch lives, to make the world a little bit better and try to solve some of those little problems we have in the world? The answer is yes. And that was why I tied this to polio. So this is not the first time I'm doing. When I did Kili, when I climbed Kilimanjaro, that was actually to raise funds for HIV/AIDS orphans. So any of these die-hard things I want to do, because people like hard stories. If you look at what really sells, you have a story that's dangerous,
right,
or a story of love. Those are the two things people want to hear.
Okay.
So if people are going to love to hear my story, why can't I use that connection that people are going to have with it to benefit humanity? And that's exactly what I did. And
you would say that the trip has been successful in raising awareness as well as funds for...
The answer is yes. It's been quite achievement what I'm doing around the world, riding from London down to Lagos, Nigeria. And the chief man just said, okay, hold on. And he called the subjects. And we had imagine the impacts of 300 women. Share the pictures, all about polio. So now look at the communication, the spread of that communication. Now also look at the global acceptance of this right. Everybody in the world is talking about polio. So you can begin to see the impact. And like you also, sitting in front of you now because the story impacted you.
That's true.
If you didn't, you wouldn't invite me, So yes, in terms of communication about polio, it's been quite successful, very successful. Fundraising, we've raised quite a lot of money. How much we have raised, don't ask me because I don't know.
Okay.
And why I don't know now. Yeah, right? But why I don't know, because, all the information doesn't come to me. It went straight into Rotary account, and I don't have access to that account. So I need to write people who are in charge of that account. How much have I raised? Can you give me a breakdown of it so that we can announce to the world this is what we have raised? Because funds are still coming in. All right. So that's actually why I can't. I have an idea, right?
It's okay not to disclose
okay.
it. It's okay not to it's enough that you said you've raised, enough money from the campaign. Now, I know you may not want to talk about this, but I would still like your thoughts. There's a saying going around now, given the string of Nigerians that we've seen doing wonderful feats globally. As I mentioned, Toby Amuson's record, that's public knowledge. Terms, other people in the entertainment world, in the world of sports, even yours, that's kind of sporty. So Nigerians are saying that Nigerians are winning, but Nigeria is not. What are your thoughts on that? When someone says Nigerians are winning, but Nigeria is not, what are your thoughts on that statement?
You see, that statement, look at it from this perspective. I think a lot of people tend to make a mistake when they're talking about Nigerian, okay, and Nigerians. Like when people are talking about issues in the country, you hear Nigeria is bad because there's insecurity. But the mistake people are making is the issues. They are different in the country. If there's insecurity in the country, let's face insecurity. That doesn't make Nigeria bad, no. If there's corruption in the country, let's talk about corruption. It doesn't mean Nigeria is bad. Yeah, you see, all countries you see around the world have their challenges. I'm not saying Nigeria is 100% okay, no. And I'm not saying the wheels of progress are not turning. The truth is the wheels of progress in Nigeria, they are turning, but they are turning very slow. The rate of turn is quite slow, but they are turning. I served in Abeokuta. I did my youth service here. That's like about maybe 17, 18 years ago. I came back to the city. I couldn't even recognize the Abeokuta that I lived 1 year in. The city has changed tremendously. So there has been some progress. But I'm not saying the progress is fast enough. No. It is slow, but are they turning? The answer is yes. So what we need to do as Nigerians is, what can we do to accelerate the rate of this turn, but not to criticize our country? All this ride, all the country I passed through, I tell you, the only country I can talk about that has better infrastructure, road infrastructure than Nigeria is Morocco. All the other countries along the route, down to Lagos.
Give us names of these countries.
Mauritania, even Morocco that we're talking about. Do you know the infrastructure only better infrastructure than all these other places? Mauritania is nowhere near. Senegal, nowhere near. Côte d'Ivoire, nowhere near. Burkina Faso. It's like I'm going from here to, you want to go from Lagos to Kano. There's no how you won't pass through all the hinterlands. That's what I did. I went by road. And when you go by road, you see things actually, you see the way people live. And I tell you, none of them anywhere compared to Nigeria. But because a lot of Nigerians have not really seen what is out there, we tend to badmouth what we have. But bring some of those people here, when they come to Nigeria, they say, whoa, so this is what's Nigeria. Why are people complaining? That's what you will hear. So Nigeria, you see, what I think our problem is, we lack patriotism. Everybody just like to say everything is negative. Because you hear some people on social media calling their country a zoo. How can you call your country a zoo? So you can imagine those kind of words. Okay, now, if I'm a Nigerian, and I'm saying my country is bad, my country is a zoo, how do you want a British guy to talk about my country? Oh, it's a zoo too, that's what he's going to say. The place is bad, that's what he's going to say. There's this proverb in Yoruba, I can't remember, but like, the way you call yourself is how they will call you, or something like that. So if people are already saying all those negative things, what else will people say? And That essentially what has led into all that negative talk about Nigeria is the way Nigerians talk about their country. Look at what happened in Senegal or which country. How can citizens of a country go and destroy their embassy? I've never heard of that, but they said Nigeria went to destroy Nigerian embassy in Senegal sometime. How can you? People were just laughing that, oh, it's because the whole country is bad. That's why you see people will tell you Nigeria is breaking up, is this. It's the way people talk and the way people act. We lack patriotism. That's what I discovered on this ride. It's the only country I've come across that people would deliberately open their mouth and say negative things about their country. Go to Mauritania. What do they have there? You'll be amazed how patriotic those guys is. Go to Senegal. You'll be amazed. And I just wonder, is this Senegal? Is this Senegal that I've had so much of? So this what they talked about, there's one express road they just did. The whole express road, there was this African Union meeting, and it was like what everybody was talking about. I was expecting, when I came in riding through I was expecting to see like maybe 20 lanes on both sides, the way they talked about it. But I was surprised the road is not even as big as Lagos-Ibadan Express Road. It's 2 lanes. We have 3 lanes on Lagos-Ibadan Express Road. And the road is even less than 100 kilos. At least Lagos-Ibadan Express Road would be like maybe 120 or 140 kilos. They blow it out of proportion. But very big thing we have, we badmouth everything. So it's patriotism. That's the problem in Nigeria.
Well, it's not so common to see a Nigerian who is this positive about Nigeria. So you may be onto something there. We'll be opening phone lines very soon, so get ready. And in the meantime, send your comments to Facebook at Splash FM 6.7, where you find us live streaming. You can also tweet at our handle on Twitter at Splash FM 1067, hashtag Panorama on Splash. Our guest is Rotarian Kunle Adeyanju, who is also known as Lionheart, and he's talking to us about his journey from London to Lagos to raise awareness, publicity about the viral disease polio, as to donate funds. And there are also other very, golden nuggets from his trip that he shared with us this morning. Now, let's talk about your future plans. I've heard that you plan to climb Mount Everest and go to Tibet.
That's true.
So, yeah, are you tying that to any cause? What do you have? When is it going to happen? What's happening then?
Okay, it's likely going to happen in the next 2 years. If you remember earlier, I told you planning London to Lagos took me a year to build the plan.
That's right.
I don't expect planning to go to Israel, to Tibet, to take a year, no, maybe 6 months because of the experience I had, doing the London to Lagos. But yes, I want to ride to Israel. Actually, Israel is just stopping by. I like Israel. I always like going there. Been there like maybe 5 times before, so. Then from Israel, I'm going to go to Tibet, and I want to experience Tibet. It's the highest plateau you have in the world, about 17,000 feet above mean sea level. Mm-hmm. When you're at that altitude, right, everyone who has been to Tibet, what they always say is God lives in Tibet. And why do they say that? It's because of the high level of purity in everything you see in Tibet. So I want to go experience that purity. And that's why I want to go to Tibet. So when I get to Tibet, I ride to Everett Base Camp, then drop my bike, then try to climb the mountain.
Well, the rest of us are living vicariously through you. So please be sure to update us on social media. All right, let's head to the phone lines now. Let's take your calls. I'm sure you have questions. We actually have a slew of questions. Lots of people are curious as to, some of the facts of your trip. But if you want to call us, the numbers to call are 0704 400 1067, 0817 444 1067, 0817 555 1067. Hello, good morning.
Good morning. Good morning.
What is your name? Where are you calling from?
My name is John from Obantoko.
John from Obantoko. Thank you for calling. You have a question for Mr. Adeyanju?
Yeah, I would like to greet him this morning with the job well done, and
thank you.
I will urge him to be very careful. Yeah, and the God be.
Amen.
Want you to do a lot with Nigerians. What you talk about our in those countries you went.
Oh, 1-755-1067, 0704-400-1067. Good.
Good morning.
What is your name? Where are you calling?
Johnson Olufato is my name.
All right, go ahead.
Demonstrate our resource person, the guest in the house. For his position, as much as I appreciate it, and as much as I agree with him that we should contribute to the development of this world. The world will reject that because you are not based in Nigeria. You cannot feel the pains that people are having. The pains. I want president that. So
In Nigeria, I'm not missing my word, and I still repeat the level of patriotism in Nigeria. Why did I say that these countries? That is the only country. Senegal or even Togo. Hear them talk about their country. How can we call our country a zoo? We stole $85 billion of people. Because of that huge, humongous corruption. The people say bad mouth US that US is a land of corruption, it is bad. There's also a land. Do you hear that? Or look at what happened in Nigeria. We have fraudulent people too. I'm not saying that Nigeria is clean. I mean, there's to the background. So it is how people put.
Nigerians are always afraid of research and risk. Why Mr. Adeyanju has embarked on research and risk through movement? Because in communication, tourism is research, and it is risk, and it is education. They are about concrete. An average Nigerian wants to be consumer. He doesn't want to research, to have patent right, to produce. He wants to also copy. He doesn't want to invent and be innovative. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Badmus, for your contribution. Remember, Facebook, Splash FM 106.7, Twitter at Splash FM 1067. Don't forget to include the hashtag Panorama on Splash in your tweets. If you'd like to call, the number to call is 0817 444 1067. 0817 555 1067 is another number you can call. It is also the WhatsApp line. Hello, good morning.
Hello, good morning.
Good morning. What's your name? Where are you calling from?
It's Nicholas. I'm calling from Abeokuta.
All right, Nicholas. Thank you for calling. Go ahead.
Thank you very much. Good morning, our guest.
Good morning, sir.
Welcome to Nigeria.
Thank you.
And I'm sure you are very informed because you have repeated the use of the word zoo about 3 times. You see, in 1990, my dear brother, my dad was in Berlin. And we had 2 instructors. One was welcoming, the other was a racist. So there was a day the racist asked him, "Where are you from?" He's from Nigeria. And the German said, "Where is that?" My dad asked him, "Do you love football?" He said, "Yes." It's okay. Nigeria was the country that defeated Germany in 1985 at the World Cup final. And the man was quiet. Because at that time, the only thing that man had was a white skin. As far as knowledge, risk, and research, it was beneath my dad. You see, until the lions produce their own historians, the history of the hunt would always favor the hunter. This is true in America, in Asia, in Australia, and where humans enslaved. But at the same time, you cannot divorce the transatlantic slave trade that took place 5 centuries ago up to the partitioning of Africa, where Americans and Europeans partitioned Africa like chocolates on a dining table. But at the same time, we rose beyond those ashes. You see, there is no bad way to say a good thing. Anywhere you are in the world, I mean, how can Amushon win a gold medal and her anthem was playing? Instead of smiling, she was crying. Now, let me tell you why. Because in her country, the students have been on strike for the past 5 months. And I know you know that in Sri Lanka, schools have resumed. Every index of human development you want to look into, from any research center, shows Nigeria at the height of negative indices. It's only sheer resilience, like that people like you have taken from where you came from to Abeokuta and Amushon. Even at that tournament, she was crying because we could have won more gold medals, but the officials pocketed the money. And if you don't mind, I can come and take you from that studio and show you some very terrible roads in Abeokuta.
Right.
And it's a state where the governor, as a Defma governor, has said that they have done everything. So we need to be sincere. Patriotism is also about praising the government when they do very well and criticizing our leaders when they fall short. Have a nice day, my dear brother.
All right, thank you very much. I'm sure everyone feels passionately about this topic or stakeholders that we all are in Nigeria. But let's try to stick to Kunle's trip, Kunle's 41-day trip from London to Lagos. And we do, as a matter of fact, have questions here from people who want to know certain things about that trip. For example, this one here from Akinkomi Agbola on Facebook says, "Please, I'd like to ask Mr. Adeyanju about the kind of bike he used on his journey. Was it custom made for the journey or was it bought off the shelf?" And someone else is also asking about Eagle. Yes, this is from Ademileko da Costa, who says, "I'm really enjoying you from Obadoko. Please help me ask if Eagle has been auctioned off." So 2 questions.
Okay.
Was it a custom bike? Has Eagle been auctioned off?
The bike is Eagle. Eagle is not a custom bike, it's an off-the-shelf bike, but it's a bike that I picked specifically for this particular ride. And, it has to be a lot of things taken into consideration before selecting that particular bike. And basically that was, you need to look at what really do I want to achieve? I can't carry too much power to take me through because that would be a waste. I need just the right amount of power to take me through the trip. And, in this particular case, efficiency is the key because all the resources that I need to keep me alive are scarce. So the more the value I can extract from that resources, the better. So that's why I actually choose this particular bike. It's a Honda CB 500X. That's a 500cc engine. Then asking about whether the bike has been auctioned yet. The auction is still ongoing. We have it on NFT. So once we do the NFT sale, everything complete about the NFT, I'm going to be donating the bike probably in a museum.
All right. Let's take a few more calls. Hello. Good morning.
Good morning.
What is your name? Where are you calling from?
Yeah, this is Prince Additional from Ashiru.
Thank you for calling.
Let me greet the great.
Oh, we lost your call. Call us back if you can. Let's also acknowledge the presence of Mr. Adeyanju's friend and comrade, Tunde Ebidero. He's also a Rotarian. He's also a biker. He's a part of the biking community. Yeah, all right. Welcome, and thank you for accompanying Rotarian Adeyanju on this trip.
Thank you very much.
All right, let's take a few more calls. Hello. Please turn down the volume on your radio set. Hello. Good morning. What's your name?
My name is Abayomi from Abeokuta.
Abayomi, thank you for calling. You have the floor.
All right. I've watched Mr. Adeyanju and I've heard about him. And as much as I've loved to appreciate his effort this morning, his comment about Nigerians not being patriotic baffles me, and it broke me down. It broke me down seriously because I want to tell you, Mr. Adeyanju, Nigerians are one people that are very, very passionate about their country. We are very, very patriotic. Only for us to have bad leaders who do not care for Nigerians. See, it is what you get for your country that will determine your response or your action towards your country. Americans will wake up in the morning and will say, God bless America, because they have all they want. They have all they need. They don't need to be millionaires. They don't need to be billionaires, but they are satisfied. We are not satisfied in Nigeria. Nigerians are being killed. Nothing is working in Nigeria. Mr. Adeyanju, carry your bike. Come to a legal junction. Carry your bike. Go to Lafayette around the road and see for yourself. So I will walk on this road every day, and you tell me to be patriotic enough to this country. Whereas our leaders are flaunting all our Commonwealth in our face, and we cannot do anything. And you want me to be patriotic to such country? No, Mr. Adeyanju, let's be sincere. You live in abroad where everything is provided for you, but we are back in Nigeria suffering. Students have been on strike for 5 months. Workers are not being paid. Our elder statesmen are not being paid. They work for 35 years, nothing is given to them. And if we want them to be patriotic, come on now. What are you saying?
All right. Thank you, Abayomi, for your contribution. On Twitter, Ayo Gbindin says, my question is, how does he manage to feed and fuel the bike during the journey? And Mr. Beast says, the countries that you visited, which one has the finest women? Secondly, you just bought a new bike. Can you give me the old one? Lastly, the corruption in other countries is not rubbed on the face of its citizens. Which one do you want to respond to from those comments and questions?
Well, I don't know what rubbing corruption in the face of citizens means, but for me, corruption is corruption. If you say Nigeria, are people held accountable for corruption? The answer is no. From the knowledge I know, but in other part of the world, are people held when they are caught? The answer is yes, and I think that is the difference. Because if you look at it, even if you look at some of this corruption law, the corruption law in Nigeria is actually more punitive than some countries. Like in Nigeria, there's nothing like facilitation. If you do facilitation to people, it's actually bribery. It's punishable by jail time. But in the US, facilitation is allowed. But if you fault any of them, and if you're not careful, you get to be held accountable. But in Nigeria, when you fault those things, if you still manage to, have friends in the right places, you still end up walking out free, which is the problem that we have. And that is why corruption, well, maybe that's what people mean by corruption, is being rubbed in the face of people. On the issue of the bike, where do I fuel the bike and what do I eat, is all part of the planning. If you remember earlier, I said it took me about a year to plan. So, the planning actually involves the route. Where do I have to pass through? There are several ways to actually go by road from London to Lagos. I could go through the coastline, which is going through Morocco, where I pass through, or I could come through Tunisia. If I come through Tunisia down to Niger Republic and down into Nigeria, it's shorter. It's about 8,000 kilometers. But the problem there is, the distance between settlements is about 1,800 kilometers. Now, where do I get resources to survive 1,800 kilometers? But if I go through the coastline, where I went through Morocco, the distance between settlements is about 500 kilos. Now, so it's easier to contend with getting those life support services for 500 kilos than getting them for 1,800. So when I got my bike, it's the tank capacity is 17 liters, which gives me a range of 500 kilos. So technically speaking, that can take me from one settlement to the other.
Right.
But, that would be working on a tightrope. So I had to get a reserve tank, an emergency gallon, where I have fuel there. So anytime, I'm taking off from my location to where I'm going, I have 22 liters, which gives me a range of 625 kilometers. So, yes, where I'm going is 500 kilos, but at least I still have some buffer, because even your consumption depends on your speed, your riding conditions, and the road condition, weather condition.
Right.
So I always have that buffer. So what I do is when I take off from a location, I have those, I have enough food, maybe like 3 fingers of banana, 2 boiled eggs. I have my 3 liters water I'm carrying. Then I have enough fuel that will take me to the next, settlement.
Mr. Adeyanju, please hold on. We have a commercial break coming up, but we're going to ask that you indulge us for another, say, 10 minutes. When we come back from this commercial break, we'll finish off with that answer, as well as get to also tender some of your questions asked on social media to Rotarian Kunle Adeyanju, the traveler who went from London to Lagos in 41 days on a motorbike. We have him live in the studio with us on Panorama today. I will continue with the rest of your questions on social media after this commercial break, so please stay with us.
Don't dare touch that dial. It's Splash, your integrity station.
Ọ̀yá lágbolé aláyọ̀ torí pé eléyìí gangan dùn ní níléeṣẹ́ Atlantic Estate and Homes Limited lórí àwọn ilẹ̀ wọn. Ilẹ̀ onígangan àti ilẹ̀ ìyànàgún pati randa 150,000 ní. Ilẹ̀ ń bẹ ní òbúrò àwòwò àti ẹ̀yìn Ecogas lólómore. Akíjọ́lé làlà ládẹ́ni extension. Èyíkéyìí nínú àwọn ilẹ̀ tẹ́ bàtà ọ̀dọ̀ wọn ẹ ti láǹfààní láti gba ọ̀kadà bẹ́ẹ̀ sì ń lé oko wọn. Alábàtẹ̀rinlẹ̀ ìṣìhún mọ́lọ́gẹ̀dẹ̀ kọba pẹ́ ṣàgbọ̀ orílẹ̀ ọba dá oko pàkùdé 30,000 làwọn ilẹ̀ yìí. Ẹ bára plot bẹ́ta ẹ ti láǹfààní sí ìdajì. Ó jẹ́ ékalera òdìlẹ́ gbàsè àwọn onírà ti wà ńlẹ̀ tí wọ́n ṣe àlàyé tàbí báyìí rà lórí ìrè tó bá ilé oko yín mu kẹsà máa gba rìsíìtì torí pé ẹni márùn ọ̀tọ̀ọ̀tọ̀ tó bá ti ra ilé oko wọn ní ò láǹfààní láti gba ọ̀kadà 30 ilé ẹjọ́ lónìí Lagos Abeokuta expressway náà tó lọ sí Biori láfihàn Abeokuta Ogun State 081 38 45 45 00 081 38 45 45 00.
ọjọ́ kọkànlélọ́gbọ̀n oṣù tá a wà yìí láǹfààní yóò pin.
mo ti donílẹ̀ mo ti dà láyọ̀.
Hello?
Sister me, it don't happen, no, it don't enter.
Wait, you don't carry?
Yes, so I don't carry belle.
Hey, thank God, oh. Remember, oh, you must start antenatal immediately. Tell them, say, make they give you wetin they call sulfadoxine pyrimethamine when the time don't reach to take a move.
Sulfadoxine pyrimethamine. You fit call am SP. Na im be the odeshi for malaria for woman dem wey get belle. No use this one play o. Sake of the pikin wey dey your belle. Malaria no be joke o. On top of that one, make sure say you sleep inside insecticide-treated net every night to protect yourself. Join the Zero Malaria Start With Me campaign for Nigeria. Make we end malaria. For a malaria-free Nigeria, Play your part. This message now from the Federal Government of Nigeria and Malaria Partners.
Ṣé oníṣẹ́ ọwọ́ ni ọ́, oníṣòwò àbí òṣìṣẹ́ ìjọba? Ìwọ náà ò ṣe darapọ̀ láti fi òní múra sílẹ̀ di ọjọ́ ọ̀la rẹ nítorí iléeṣẹ́ First January Agro Investment Limited. Wọ́n ti ṣetán láti bá ìwọ náà múra ọjọ́ ọ̀la rẹ sílẹ̀. Ìwọ ṣáà ti rí i dájú pé ó pẹ̀lú ọ̀kan nínú àwọn àgbẹ̀ tí wọ́n fẹ́ gbin igi ọ̀pẹ fún lóṣù September ọdún yìí. Éèkà kan ilẹ̀ 850,000 naira ni. Yàtọ̀ sí pé ìwọ ló ní éèkà kan yẹn. Igi ọ̀pẹ 100 ló máa wà lórí ẹ̀. Fún odindi ọdún 5 gbáko ni wàá fi máa gba ìdá 5 iye owó tí o fi gbin igi ọ̀pẹ ọ̀hún. Tó bá ti wá di ọdún kẹfà, wọ́n fa oko ọ̀pẹ éèkà kan rẹ lé ọ lọ́wọ́ lọ́dọọdún. Epo ìsebẹ̀ tí ọ̀pẹ yìí máa fún ẹ á tó 750 litres. Ó kéré tán wàá máa rí 450,000 naira lórí epo nìkan lọ́dọọdún. Pé 08165646535.
Honey, must you go?
Babe, you know I must. Besides, you can always video call me.
Hey, what if your battery runs out?
I've got my power bank.
Hey, and when your power bank runs out?
Babe, I've got my laptop.
Okay, wait. What if your data runs out?
Babe, you know we never run out of data.
Never run out of data with Airtel Home Broadband Unlimited Ultra plans. Enjoy unlimited data with no speed cap plus extra data daily, so you never have to worry about running out. Visit www.airtel.com.ng/HBB to get started.
Babe, but I just left the house.
Yes, honey. It's video calling all the way.
Airtel, the smartphone network. Splash FM 106.7.
Panorama.
Panorama.
Panorama. Panorama.
Panorama.
Panorama on Splash 106.7 FM.
Welcome back. It's 9:02 a.m. this 27th day in July, and our guest this morning on Panorama is a Nigerian who has done us proud on a global stage. On the 19th of April this year, Rotarian Kunle Adeyanju set out on a trip from London to Lagos with his motorbike, fondly named Eagle. Everyone knows Eagle now. Eagle is almost as popular as you are, Lionheart. And Lionheart is here in the studio with us to talk about his journey, which he has talked about, the motivations behind it, the publicity he was hoping to drum up, and other things. He's even talked about patriotism, and I think that's the area that, a lot of people are feeling very triggered about. But we're trying to, stick to his sojourn. And before we went on that commercial break, you were answering the question about your feeding and your fueling. So if you can quickly, finish up with that. I think the person also asked a number of other questions. I do want to hear which country has the finest women, which is one of the questions that Mr. Beast asked. He also asked you to give him his old one, but I already envisaged your answer. But nevertheless, please go on.
Okay, so like I said, it's all part of the planning. And when my bike is filled I fill my, the 2 tanks are filled. That's the main tank and my reserve tank. It gives me 22 liters and a range of 625 kilos. And so that can take me from one settlement to the other. And, that way I will actually have, those light support services. I can get into a hotel to spend the night. I can get a place to eat proper food. The same process goes on the next day and day and after. And that's actually what informed my choice of that route. Because if I'd gone through Tunisia down to Niger Republic, and I have to cover 1,800 kilos between settlement, it's going to be difficult for me to survive it because I don't have that resource across. If I'm with a Land Rover, I probably can carry maybe like 500 liters of fuel. Yes, I can use that route, which is shorter. But going with a motorbike, there's little cargo which I can put on the bike.
Right.
So those are part of what informed my road.
You don't want...
Which country has the finest women? It's a tough question because I met quite a lot of beautiful ladies along the route, right? And, but I don't want to look at beauty just in terms of, facial appearance, physical appearance, but I want to look at heart. People with beautiful soul. I met quite a lot of lovely people along the way, people who have shown me, shown me, I don't want to say love, but they've really helped me a lot. They were there, like to keep me company, to make me smile, make me feel at home. I enjoyed Côte d'Ivoire, and because of Zainab, I met Zainab in Côte d'Ivoire, and we became very good friends. And, she's someone I like a lot. Okay, yeah, maybe I'll say Côte d'Ivoire because of Zainab.
Okay. All right. Well, let's run through the slew of comments that we have on social media. Sorry to everyone who's still calling, but we do have to get through quite a lot of comments sent in on social media. All right. Let me go to WhatsApp, where Dr. Powoye Shegun from Isolu community says, our own Ajala, the Lionheart. LL Man, London to Lagos. How do you get your sponsorship? I read that it was self-funded.
Correct.
What is the estimated cost of this trip? Were you sick on the way? How did you feed? 41 days. Africa is great, but committed and selfless, uncorrupt corrupt leaders is our major challenge in Africa. Suffering in the midst of plenty human and natural resources. About you getting sick on the way, I read that, you said you had about 4 near-death experiences.
Correct.
Okay, so Tokumbo from Ashero says, I want to call Mr. Adeyanju the lucky one. You are lucky not to have fallen into the hands of kidnappers when you got into Nigeria. Nigeria is worse than you think, especially about insecurity. Your view about Nigeria is because you don't live here. That's true. How long do you stay in Nigeria?
Okay, let me put it this way. Like I told you, I did my youth service in Abeokuta.
Mm-hmm.
So I lived 1 year in Nigeria. I started working in Nigeria with British American Tobacco. I worked with them for 7 years. Then I joined Oando Gas and Power just for 18 months. Then I joined Shell. I worked with Shell for 15, 16 years. Then I left the country. Then even leaving the country is not like I'm going to fully stay there. My family lived there, but leave the country for like 8 months, come back to Nigeria, stay maybe 2 months, go back there, stay another maybe 8 months and go. So I've never really lost touch with Nigeria because I have businesses here.
Right.
So yes, I live there more now, but I'm still in Nigeria. I have businesses in Nigeria, so I know what happens here.
That brings us to our next question. Someone wants to know, what do you do for a living?
I'm a venture capitalist, and I have a real estate outfit. So that's basically what I do.
Reverend Zachariah Olubayo Taningbola from Wasimi says, Bro Adeyanju Equinriajo from London to Lagos, Kishe Kekere. Olajuwon says, I want to commend your guest in the studio, Kunle Adeyanju, for his humanitarian bike tour. Indeed, he's a humanitarian. As concerning as his chiding of Nigerians about not being patriotic enough is, I would want to say it did not start from the ordinary Nigerians, but from our leaders who are selfish and greedy. It is a known fact that if the head is rotten, the whole body will also be. Also, I read on social media about how he was badly treated in Mauritania and how he was refused entry into Senegal for being a Nigerian. I would like him to talk about it. So just hold that in one hand. Let me get through as many comments as I can get through. Then we'll just take all the questions at once. Ojo Kenny from Abiola Way says, this is amazing. Please, can I be your driver or passenger? I want to go out. Kolawole Phillips says, please, Nigerians are patriotic. Just as you traveled from London to Lagos, can you travel around Ogun and see the way things are? We are not satisfied with the way Nigeria is. We need to say good things about our country. Nigeria is not a zoo because we are not animals, but we need a better Nigeria. Let's advocate for this. Insecurity makes us bad. Corruption makes this country bad. Okay, let me see. You didn't leave your name, but I'm going to try and take some parts of your message. You said, I congratulate you, Kunle, and I would like to say we're proud of you. We're facing a lot in Africa, and particularly Nigeria, where a citizen is almost equal to an alien. Currently, we are faced with insecurity where people are being killed on a daily basis in ungodly manner. We live here, and let me tell you, Nigeria is the worst place to live on earth. It is not about Western countries portraying us in a bad light. Worst place? That's very subjective. You also said, Tell us one thing to be proud and patriotic about as Nigerians. All right, let me move over to the next comment on WhatsApp from Akinwale from Camp, who says, listening to Mr. Adeyanju is inspiring. Not only did he defy some odd circumstances, but he also showed great courage and strength. He's almost convincing me to be as adventurous as he is, but I won't go beyond my limits. All I can say is kudos to him, and I can't wait to read his book when published. On his take on patriotism, I think it is difficult to be patriotic when you're hungry. There is hunger in the land. A hungry man is an angry man. How can you read of a singular person converting 80 billion naira to himself and you are going to be happy being Nigerian? Check the front pages of our newspaper. We know what dominates it the most. All the same, I would do my best to speak good of my nation no matter what. Someone also asked about Zainab. Zainab is quite popular, apparently. All right, on Facebook, also lots of comments here. Let me see if I can breeze through them. Babatunde Yenekan says, kudos for the great work, Mr. Adeyanju. How I wish I am allowed to come and take a picture and frame it for the generation to come and see what bravery looks like. I so much cherish this act. Well, if you meet him in time, I'm sure there'll be a meetup somewhere where people can come take pictures with you. He also says, regards to Zainab. Sanitarian Akinola Luwaratimi says, good morning, sir. Nice seeing you here. I am one of Mr. Adeyanju's fan, and I monitor every bit of his trip to Nigeria. And the most scary one was that of a city he got to and only God saved him. My question is this: what can you say to advise our people traveling to other African countries, especially Libya, for one business or another, and the end result is not palatable? How can you differentiate the governance of other African countries, the likes of Kenya, Zambia, Zimbabwe, etc., to ours here in Nigeria? Agwebi Ezekiel said, how did you cross borders where you have cross waterways? This next one is from, okay, I've taken Akin Kumi Agbola's question. Olaoki Anoluwapo says, good to have you around yesterday in Olumorok, Mr. Adeyanju. I'm proud of you, sir. Esteemed Temitaya says, I would like to ask what advice you would like to give to the Nigerian youths. Omidon Temitokwe says, patriotism is not only our problem in Nigeria, but part of it. We are trying as Nigerians, but we lack the system of government in the country. We have those who can rule, but our system is not intact. And, okay, can't make sense of that. Ogunleye Oluwatoyin says, good morning in the house. Kudos to Lionheart Adeyanju on your strides. Please know that Nigeria has more natural resources than any other country in Africa. Our development cannot be compared to the development we have from it. The rate of dependence is on the rise daily because many are jobless and more are still joining. Akintayo Halim says, regards to our able Lionheart, I agree with the guests. I think Nigerians have to play more do more in their own part. You mean the situation of the country requires the contribution of all Nigerians. Timila Balogun says Nigerians are not patriotic because we started well. Naira was once bigger than dollar. Here we are today. 1 naira to $1 is nothing to write home about. Tiami Rashid says, I want to agree with Mr. Kunle about patriotism. This problem is across board from leadership down to followers. The earlier we tackle this problem, the better for us as a nation. Abe Fagbemi says, please, Mr. Kunle, I'm begging you, try to visit Minister of Sports and Ogun State Governor about the sports activities to analyze this for them. I believe the journey cannot be successful without taking part in sports activities. Sport in Nigeria, well, Ogun State is dying. Afonjade Damola says, your guest has said it all about Nigerians. I wonder why most of us will say and have negative thoughts towards the country. Whenever the Americans wake up or do something, they round it up by saying, God bless America. But it's the other way around here in my blessed country. Finally, on Facebook, Ademola Adenira says, welcome to Nigeria, Mr. Adeyanju, where everyone residing knows what is happening. Please, you really tried with your trip, but concerning the lack of patriotism of Nigerians, you have to apologize for this. It's his opinion. He shouldn't have to apologize. You can disagree, but he also has a right to hold on to his opinion. He says, I want you to answer me, please. Can you try to drive from Abeokuta here to Kaduna enter Nasarawa down to Borno, you will know what we are talking about. All right, let me see. Final one on Twitter. Okay, a few more. On Twitter, this one from Ajayi Ogidiolu says, congratulations on your surgeon. May I know how you could cope with your health status passing through the Sahara and all the harsh weather? Were you not harassed by security agents at each country you passed through? Honorable Fatigi is also here again, and he says Rotary and Adeyanju has done well for his successful sojourn on bike from London to Nigeria. However, to call Nigerians unpatriotic is not good enough. I believe he's only calling the attention of government. Okay. Well, I wouldn't know about that. That's speculation. Abubakar Kabir Eniton says, good morning, Mr. Kunle. Kindly accept my greetings and commendation for setting the pace. What influence can you put to energize Nigerian youths towards objective participation in politics? What mentorship engagement have you been into for the Nigerian youths? Quite a number of comments there. More are still trickling in, but this has to stop sometime. So which ones would you do you think are memorable enough for you to respond to from the comments that were read out?
I think there are 3 questions which struck me, which I would like to talk about. One is about the resources. A guy talked about Nigeria has one of the most resources in African countries. Then someone talked about denial, my refusal to enter into, actually it's Côte d'Ivoire, not Senegal. Mm-hmm. But he or she said, because I'm a Nigerian, that is not correct. I was denied entry into Côte d'Ivoire, not because I'm a Nigerian, but because there was an ECOWAS blockade on Mali. I was coming in from Mali. Mali did a coup. There was a military coup in Mali that overthrew the civilian government. And the ECOWAS country put a blockade on Mali to punish the military junta so that they don't keep, overthrowing civilian governments.
Right.
And that blockade was, they said, okay, no person from Mali is allowed to go into any ECOWAS country. And Mali too now did the reciprocity, which is, if you don't allow our people to go into your country, your people also cannot come into our country. So there was that blockade. And I was going to go through from Mali into Côte d'Ivoire. So I was going to be breaking that blockade. So in order for me to do that, I need a special permit to do it, which is the laissez-passer. Now, the laissez-passer they were going to give me to do that, the Nigerian ambassador in Senegal in Mali, gave me that issued me a laissez-passer to go into Côte d'Ivoire. But the Côte d'Ivoirian government refused. They said Nigeria cannot tell them who to accept into their country or not. Côte d'Ivoire is a sovereign nation just like Nigeria. Mm-hmm. Côte d'Ivoire cannot tell Nigeria this is who you should accept into your country. So my laissez-passer should have been issued by the Côte d'Ivoirian ambassador with the copy from the Nigerian ambassador. After seeing that Nigeria has allowed me to come, which is like an application, then they should now issue theirs to say, okay, we are confirming this application, you can go in.
Okay.
But they only gave me the one for Nigeria, so they refused that. But it was a Sunday, by the following Monday, it was resolved. So I wasn't denied because I'm a Nigerian,
right,
no, but because there was a blockade from ECOWAS on this. Then the other question about resources. Resources doesn't make a country rich. If you have natural resources, it doesn't make you rich. Venezuela has more crude oil than Saudi Arabia. They have more reserve than Saudi Arabia. Today it's a broken country. So resources doesn't make you rich. It is the exploitation and the value you can get from that resources. Now, let me give you an example. What I mean by that. If you look at crude oil, I've been in this business for 15, 16 years. If you extract a barrel of crude oil, let's assume you sell it on the market, the price is $100, right? And they take it to Europe. They refine this crude oil. They break it down into petrol, aviation fuel, kerosene, chemical, plastics, asphalt. Do you know the whole value addition you've added? It becomes $2,000. So you sell something $100. When you finish refining it, the entire value becomes about $2,000. Now imagine you've added $1,000 into the economy of the country refining the crude.
Right.
So if you are selling your resources, it's a waste. It is value addition that makes a country rich. And that is why for me, when people say, that's why, personally for me, I praise what Dangote Refinery is doing. If it's going to be refining our crude here, you're going to refine 650,000 barrels per day. Look at the value addition into the Nigerian economy. Forget whether the man is taking the money wherever. Where is the money the factory, the plant domiciled? Here. So, rough calculation, the value addition into Nigerian economy, look at $1,900. It's an assumption, a hypothetical example, times 650,000 barrels a day. Look at the value it's pumping into the economy of this country. So it is the value addition. It's not natural resources. It doesn't make people rich.
Right. Okay, well, I'm afraid we're going to have to conclude this segment. It's been a very interesting, engaging, enlightening interview with Mr. Kunle Adeyanju, who is a Rotarian, as well as also now known as the record-breaking Nigerian who traveled from London to Lagos in 41 days on his motorbike. He's been with us since 8 o'clock, answered as many of your questions as he could get to. So please don't be resentful if he couldn't get to your question. We do have to move over to paper review. But thank you very, very much for... Can I say thank you for your service?
Thank you. Thank you. Yeah, let me say that too. Thank you too. Thank you for thanking me.
Where will you be next? Are you going to have a meet and greet?
Yes, we are going next to the palace of the Alaki of the Egbaland, and later in the evening we are going to be meeting with Baba Obasanjo, having a dinner with him. And I think basically that's going to be the fun.
Is there any way your fans can come and meet you?
Yeah, I
for
think
pictures.
Yes, the palace of the Alaki is open, and they can meet us there. We're going to actually be having polio immunization for some children there.
Wonderful.
So they can come. The district governor for Rotary, district governor for District 9110, which is Lagos State and Ogun State. She's actually on her way from Lagos to Abeokuta to be joining us at the palace of the Alaki of Egbaland. So she's going to be there. So as much as anyone who wants to come, even if the whole of Abeokuta wants to come, please come join us. Let's have fun together.
Okay, then. Thank you very much, Rotarian Kunle Adeyanju. And thank you to Mr. Tunde Ebidero. All right, we'll take a short break and then we'll be back and resume with From the Pages. Please stay with us.
Panorama.
Panorama.
Panorama. Panorama.
Panorama.
Panorama on Splash 106.7 FM.
Reflex.
I've been the one to rise up and even know the odds. I've seen the flashy cars when I sat inside the bus. I've said yes to the boss. I've walked kilometers to get to where I did. I prayed for grace to cover all my day to day. I've seen the rich boys, the flex boys, we go become G. So even them go flex boys too. Shout out to E-Money. I've seen girls getting selfish now. Who knew H-Money just because they want to say the money loud? I-Money. I've seen people go to jail for day money. Me, I know go like the Johnny Long case series. I go always prove the doubters wrong, and the truth is, I fall, I rise, I did that many times. Don't be there, yo, I know you really trying to block my shine, so wait.
We get on our feet,
hey, wait.
When I know the listen, we go rise up again. We did pray for praise,
Everyone is in awe, but the pain and sacrifice that they ignore. Cause it's blood, not sweat that drips from every pore. Cause it's sacrifice, not keys that open doors. If it's not about the pepper, what's the point of grinding? Trying to be the brand ambassador for God's timing. Everybody want proving to the haters, but sometimes those close friends that need reminding. Heaven knows the anointing is in the flow.
Welcome back. It's the Integrity Station on Splash 106.7 FM. And this is the latter half of Panorama. The last 1 hour plus has been quite interesting, I'd say. Quite interesting. If you missed out on it, well, you can go check out our Facebook live stream that will be available after, the entire Panorama for today is concluded. But we have newspaper review to get to. Once again, sorry to anyone who's comment we couldn't read. We were constrained for time, and so we had to do quite a bit of juggling there. I'm going to quickly breeze through the front pages of Vanguard as well as Nigerian Tribune. But joining us in the studio in the flesh this time is Honorable Johnson Olufatoki. Welcome and good morning.
Thank you. Good morning. Good morning, Nigerians. Good morning, the people of Ogun State.
You had a lot to say in our first segment, but let's leave that in the past where it is now. From the front page of Vanguard, we have as the lead story, NLC on protests, government toying with an uprising like NSAS. That's what the NLC says. Falana fault federal government's claims on oil subsidy as Ganduje promises governor's intervention. On the NBA, Olanik Pekun face-off, body of benches meet silent on Akpata's petition. Deputy Speaker says DSS shared intelligence reports before Kuje prison attack. On organ harvesting, court has granted Ikweremadi's wife bail. Ekiti Tribunal grants Oni's request to inspect electoral materials. Recs are not recognized as members of INEC. That is according to the National Commissioner of the Independent National Electoral Commission, Festus Okoye. NSCDC says that bandits and terrorists are planning attacks on Lagos, FCT, Katsina, and 3 others. Well, I assume that they must have told the necessary security agencies because as good as this information is, I don't know what exactly the average Nigerian is supposed to do about it. But the IMF has downgraded Nigeria's 2023 growth projection as it retains 2022 at 3.4%. And that's the front page of Vanguard. Let's move over to Nigerian Tribune now, where DSS submitted 44 reports before Kuje prison attack. That is according to Rep's deputy speaker. FAC shares 802.407 billion naira in June of 2022 as revenue to federal government, state and local governments. IMF projects growth to slow to 3.2% in 2022. Buhari seeks Senate confirmation of Ariwola as CJN. 18 Rex 2. Obasanjo urges NPC to ensure conduct of credible, acceptable, reliable census. Labour stages pro-ASU protest in states. Honor your agreement with ASU, Autumn tells federal government. ASU strike dangerous, poses threat to nation building, Ganduje says. Falana joins protest, says Buhari insensitive to Nigeria's plight. ASU rejects plan to hike tuition fees in public universities. We also have a picture of members of the NLC Bauchi State Chapter during a protest in solidarity with ASU in Bauchi on Tuesday. Autumn to federal government, what did you do with $1 billion security funds 36 states put together? Reps moved to bar CBN governor and deputies from partisan politics. That's an interesting one. We'll definitely check it out. Army denies capture of personnel, confirms death of 8 during attack on Guards Brigade. Bandits attack Kaduna's Millennium City. Kidnap scores. All right, where do we begin? Let's begin with the protest from yesterday and all the highlights from that protest. As we said, we have with us in the studio Honorable Johnson Olufatoki. There's also a picture of the NLC ASU Solidarity protest in Lagos yesterday on the Vanguard's front page. And what do you make of these highlights, these riders from the story, where Ganduje is promising that the governors will intervene The NLC is saying that the government is toying with another uprising like NSAS by keeping the students away from school for this long. What do you make of Governor Otum also telling the federal government to honor its agreement with ASU and ASU rejecting plans to hike tuition fees in public universities?
Yeah, thank you very much. Any sensible Nigerians, because Nigerians are patriotic and sensible, we admit that the government is not responding as expected to the yearnings and the expectation of Nigerians. Keeping our children at home for so long a period is uncalled for. Agreement was signed by the government, the ASU government. That agreement should be followed, should be honored, so that there can be peace and progress in this nation. That is exactly what every Nigerians are expecting, and government should do the needful.
What about ASU saying that it's not going to hike tuition fees in public universities, in order to drum up funds? That's another position that some people are saying that ASU should explore. Self-funding by hiking tuition fees, which have, remained relatively unchanged.
The hardship on Nigerians presently is enormous. When you now talk of hiking school fees, it's like the government is planning to make sure that some students, if not most students, high percentage of students are back at home. Because even presently, you'll find out that some parents are struggling seriously hard to even pay the current school fees. So hiking it, we have already almost all the government services and products have been increased seriously. The cost of materials, cost of living is on the high rise. So increasing the school fees is going to be an addition to the pains that Nigerians are already having. So that should be discouraged.
And do you think that there's any chance that if this strike lingers on for longer, especially with the NLC joining in and threatening that it may be indefinite, there's a chance that this could be another similar one? It could trigger a similar movement like NSAS?
Who says it cannot even be more than that? We are only praying that the government should respond on time. It is getting out of hand. It's like putting gunpowder, or putting fire on gunpowder, and we don't expect it. Government should not wait until it explodes. There's agitation, there's apprehension almost everywhere. And the only organ that can put a stop to the unforeseen is the government. Let them sit down and look at way to resolve these problems. So that but it's not difficult. It's like I see it as an intentional act on the part of the government. They can do it, and they should do the needful.
All right. Well, let's move over now to another story. I read the headline of the NSCDC warning that bandits and terrorists are planning attacks on Lagos, FCT, Katsina, and 3 others. Apparently, that information came out via a leaked memo dated 25th of July, which addressed all state commands of the NSCDC. As the court said, 2 separate bandit groups have also concluded plans to attack Abuja and others. But in a related story, on page 26 of the Vanguard, Deputy Speaker of the House of Representatives, Idris Wase, yesterday said the Department of State Services, DSS, shared 44 intelligence reports before the attack on Kuje Prison.
Yes.
Wase spoke on the floor of the Green Chamber during the plenary, and he also made the remarks while speaking on emotion on the need to halt the federal government's proposed nationwide ban on commercial motorcycles. Now, on this fight against insecurity, several suggestions and solutions have been proffered. At some point, it was said that Nigeria was lacking intelligence, and that's why we're not, we didn't have a strong enough intelligence base, and that's why insecurity has persisted. But it seems like this refutation of that by Idris Wase showing that intelligence is not the problem, that even when there's intelligence, it still doesn't seem to be enough to avert some of these attacks. So what then do you think is the problem, or what do you make of this?
There is government and even the community leaders are supposed to be proactive. When there are information, but there wasn't, maybe the authority didn't believe that information was correct, and you see what happened. At the same time, we cannot just be creating fear where none exists. You cannot just there can be some people can even use social media to rumors mongers to be on the pro. All the agencies, the security agencies, to be up and doing to forestall the experience that we had in Kuje. When you talk of security generally, I also always assert that if, like it is assumed that Nigerian population is 220 million, if you have 100 million of Nigerians to be security personnel, that might not guarantee security of lives and property. What needs to be done is to ensure that let the institutions be functional. Let us have functional agencies. Let's have provision of electricity. Let us have good road. Let there be jobs for people to do. That will stem down the insecurity naturally. So when all those things are still there, and you want to buy guns and ammunition, war weapons, that cannot stop insecurity. So security.
So you think the bandits and the terrorists are doing so because there are no jobs?
That is what I was saying. It's part of it. It's part of it. What? Okay, for example, if we have the trained
Abuja, Kaduna.
What is difficult in that?
Passengers.
I cannot tell you if it is America, within 24, 48 hours, they will have gotten those people.
Apprehended. Is it not
so
perhaps
if we have good electricity, if we have the CCTVs in place, if we have good roads, insecurity will reduce. That is the truth.
Okay, but maybe it will reduce generally, but that particular type of insecurity, the kind of activities the bandits and the terrorists are getting up to, where they are asking passengers for ransom of 100 million, what kind of legitimate job can one do that will earn you 100 million naira? For kidnapping one person, and they're kidnapping hundreds, 50, tens of people.
That act is rebellious, it's illegal, and it's criminal. But how do you stem down criminality? Certain things have to be put in place. When you have structures, when you have system in place, when the agencies are working to the optimal, you discover that people will be discouraged, because once they engage in it, they will be caught. But where you have the center, if the center cannot hold, things will fall apart. When the center cannot hold, when there's confusion everywhere, everybody will be doing whatever he likes. And that is what we're experiencing in Nigeria today. There should be change of mind, vis-a-vis active and serious participation and activities from the government. They should show good example. They should be patriotic. They should do the right thing so that we can move forward in Nigeria.
All right, let's move over now to this other story. You can comment on our Facebook live stream your thoughts on the headlines we've read or some of the analysis done by Honorable Olufatoki on these stories. The House of Representatives on Tuesday passed through second reading a bill seeking to amend Section 11 of the Central Bank of Nigeria CBN Act 2007 to bar the governor, deputy governors, or directors of the Apex Bank from partisan politics. The proposed legislation, entitled Bill for an Act to amend Section 11 of the CBN Act 2007 to add more conditions for disqualification and cessation of appointment as governor, deputy governor or director of the bank, and for related matters, HB 2023, was sponsored by Honorable Sada Soli. While leading the debate on its general principles, the lawmaker noted that provisions of section... Okay, let me skip over that part. He said the bill seeks to add more provisions and that the amendment seeks to insert a new subsection to read that the bank's chief shall cease to hold office if he or she is a member of a political party or is involved in partisan politics, and that the bill is intended to restore credibility from the shock it had suffered in the cause of interpreting the existing law and not against any individual. Do you commend these moves? That's one. Second, do you think this will be heeded to, given all the drama that we're seeing playing out right now, currently, with aspirants for positions who were also political appointees that contest for two positions at the same time, or are now attempting to have contested for two positions? I'm speaking specifically to the Senate President, as well as Akpabio. We're seeing all the drama play out with that, and we're seeing the difficulty that these aspirants, and maybe INEC too, is having with obeying some conditions of the new Electoral Act. So if this bill scales through successfully, do you think it will be enough to check a future CBN governor from being involved in politics like Godwin Emefiele?
By convention, it's not just anybody that is a civil servant. The civil servants are not expected to be card-carrying member of any political party. But that has never been written in any law. There's no law that by convention. That has been the practice, right? But why we support that bill is just because of the vintage position of the CBN governor. That position, CBN governor should be seen as responsible to all Nigerians and not to a patriotism or your interest in that political party, you will definitely do what is not expected, against the law, because you want to favor your political party. So, but to me, it should not be limited to the CBN governors alone. There are other positions of authority that are so important that should not be partisan.
Are now trying to find where to store election materials as a result of the CBN's
when you are talking of
decision.
CBN governor, what happened if the INEC chairman says he's a member of a political party? So that is even more serious. So what I'm saying that it should not be specific on the CBN governor. It should be total. The National Assembly should look into so critical positions. It might not be general. Say the entire civil servants. That blanket banning might be suicidal. But the fact of the matter is, there are some critical positions that require such banning.
Right. Well, from what I can uncover, the INEC chairman is actually banned statutorily from partisan politics.
So the CBN should also go
The same way.
It's the same way. That's it.
All right. Well, let's take as few calls as we can manage in the next 4 minutes. 0704 400 1067 0817 555 1067. Hello. Good morning.
Yeah, good morning, my dear sister, and the guest. I greet you, sir. Good morning, sir. Yeah, my name is Folarin Golao from Shagauli. Am I on?
Yes, you're on. Go on.
Yeah, I want to have my take this morning on this, what's it called, the insecurity issues. I think, to me, I'm trying to figure some certain things out. Like, what's it called? There are some elements, let me put it that way. There are some elements in the government, you understand, that are misleading the president, you understand, on insecurity. Tell me why. The reason is this, that if you recall, the Kuje prison, the terrorists that they freed there, you don't know their whereabouts now. And initially, they told us that when that train attack occurred, they did not request for money. They requested for their men, which they have already freed now. Now they are requesting for money. So if that should be the case, just things, it's just like a Yoruba did that said, I want to make Poloko, go aja, I want to Poloko, go mule. That is, there are some people, behind all these things, and if you don't fish it out, there will be a continuous problem in this country, in insecurity. Like now, nobody out of those captives that can go freely now without ransom. So government should make a way to bring out the money and feed those people and sort it out in them in the bush. That's the only solution. If not that, I think something is wrong somewhere. Thank you.
All right. Thank you very much. Good morning. On WhatsApp, this comment from Samson U. Joseph says, imagine 44 reports were submitted to federal politicians are waiting until something happened. Alon Sonia Shamsuddin Akorede says, okay, thank you for the commendation. I don't know if this is you or someone else, but this comment says, may God please help us with this unexpected insecurity we are facing in this country, despite the amount of money spent on security issues in Nigeria. Okay, please include your name in your WhatsApp messages, all right? Very important. I will not be able to read your message if you don't. Fola said, to Ogun State Police Command PRO, on Monday, he featured on your station on the Yoruba program in the evening as he was defending his constituency. Your staff affected are supposed to be in the studio with him. Police, okay, this is about that incident, so I will skip that. Fola continues with, when you see police, sometimes you wonder, alcohol-smelling police, untidy ones on the road, the police, okay, I think this is still about that story. Okay, Fola finishes off with, my view on security vote is that it is illegal since the funds the presidents, governors take on a monthly basis presently cannot be experienced due to insecurity in the land. And Buhari turns his eyes to the other side. Security personnel are not taken good care of. That is why Buhari's government has failed. All right, let's take maybe one last call and then we'll go. Hello?
Thank you, Nicholas.
Nicholas, you have 30 seconds.
I will use 20. Honorable Fatoki.
How are you, sir?
If the king does well in the kingdom, the fake news by the town crier will not matter. Have a nice day.
Thank you, Nicholas, for keeping it short. Really appreciate it. All right. Thank you, everyone. Let's do this again tomorrow with Benga and Odera. But thank you, Honorable. It ends on the 31st of July, Sunday, and it's now extended to weekends from 9 to 5 a.m. My name is Lola Meduteni. Good morning.